Is there anything more humiliating in professional sports than paying a fortune just to make someone go away? We are witnessing a financial and emotional standoff in Philadelphia that feels less like a baseball strategy and more like a desperate divorce settlement. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are dissecting a developing crisis at Citizens Bank Park that has the entire city holding its breath. The Philadelphia Phillies, a team built to dominate the National League East, are currently staring down the barrel of a $20 million problem named Nick Castellanos. But this isn't just about one player slumping. This is a symptom of a front office that is suddenly scrambling, sweating, and looking for the emergency exit. Let's set the scene properly because the context here is absolutely brutal. The Phillies entered this offseason with the swagger of a contender, dropping a massive $150 million to keep the Schwarbombs coming from Kyle Schwarber and locking up the best catcher in baseball, JT Realmuto, for another 3 years. They've been active bringing in arms like Brad Keller and Zack, trying to retool on the fly. But then, reality hit them like a freight train. They lost their homegrown ace, Ranger Suarez, to the Boston Red Sox. Then, in a move that stung even worse, they watched Bo Bichette, a primary target to revitalize the infield, sign on the dotted line with the rival New York Mets. The vibe in Philadelphia shifted overnight from championship or bust to panic mode. Now, the whispers regarding Castellanos have turned into a roar. We aren't talking about a simple trade here. We are talking about a salary dump of epic proportions. ESPN's Jesse Rogers dropped the bombshell that the Phillies are projected to ship Castellanos to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But here is the detail that makes you wince. Philadelphia is expected to eat $15 million of his remaining $20 million contract. Let that sink in. The Phillies are reportedly willing to pay 75% of his salary just to see him wear a different uniform. It is the baseball equivalent of paying your ex's rent for a year just to get them out of the apartment. This rumor has divided the fan base right down the middle. Half of the crowd is furious, seeing this as a sign of a front office that has lost its ability to evaluate talent, admitting a $100 million mistake in the most public way possible. The other half, they see it as a necessary evil, a painful amputation to save the rest of the body. The tension is palpable because this move signifies that the Phillies are backed into a corner. They need payroll flexibility to chase a replacement for Suarez or bolster the bullpen, and Castellanos' contract has become an anchor dragging the ship down. We are watching a high-stakes game of poker where the Phillies are trying to fold a bad hand without losing their shirt, and the rest of the league is watching to see if they blink. Now let's strip away the emotion and look at the cold, hard mechanics of why this trade is even on the table and why it might be the steal of the century for Pittsburgh. To understand this, we have to look at the timeline. The Phillies are operating in a win-now window that is slamming shut faster than anyone wants to admit. Bryce Harper is 33. Tree Turner is 32. JT Realmuto is 34. This is an aging core that cannot afford to wait for a veteran to figure it out. They need production, and they need it yesterday. Castellanos, coming off a down 2025 season, is a luxury they can no longer afford to carry. However, let's not rewrite history and pretend Nick Castellanos is finished. This is the expansion of the narrative that people are missing. We are talking about a two-time All-Star who, as recently as 2023, smashed 29 home runs and drove in 106 RBIs. He is a professional hitter. The Pirates, a team that has been stuck in rebuild purgatory for what feels like a decade, are looking at this situation and licking their chops. For Pittsburgh, acquiring Castellanos for pennies on the dollar, while the Phillies pay the bulk of the freight, is a masterstroke of low-risk, high-reward management. Think about the fit. PNC Park has dimensions that can be very friendly to right-handed power if you know how to use the gaps, and Castellanos is a doubles machine when he's right. He would instantly walk into that Pirates clubhouse and become the veteran alpha dog for young studs like O'Neal Cruz and Henry Davis. He brings postseason experience, a gritty attitude, and a bat that, when hot, is one of the most dangerous in the league. If he goes to Pittsburgh and hits .280 with 25 homers, the Pirates look like geniuses. They could even flip him at the trade deadline to a contender for real prospects, essentially turning Philadelphia's money into Pittsburgh's future assets. It is 4D chess against the Phillies' checkers, but for Philadelphia, this is addition by subtraction. It's a concept that is hard to swallow for fans who look at the back of a baseball card, but essential for GMs managing a salary cap. By eating that $15 million, they free up $5 million and, more importantly, a roster spot. That spot could go to a younger outfielder with more defensive range, or it allows them to pivot funds toward a high-leverage reliever. The fear, of course, is the X factor. Imagine the narrative if Castellanos goes to Pennsylvania's other team and suddenly rediscovers his stroke. It would be a PR nightmare for the Phillies front office, a constant reminder on the nightly highlight reels that they paid a guy to beat them. Yet, the alternative, keeping a disgruntled, underperforming player on a $20 million tag, creates a toxic locker room environment. It breeds resentment. If the Phillies want to reset the culture for 2026, clearing the decks might be the only way, even if it costs them a fortune in dead money. We have arrived at the moment of truth. This potential trade is a classic case study in the sunk cost fallacy. Human nature tells us to hold onto a bad investment because we've already spent so much on it, hoping it will turn around. Smart business, however, dictates that you cut the cord the moment the asset becomes a liability. The Phillies are teetering on that edge. History is littered with teams that waited too long to move on from declining stars. Think of the Angels with Albert Pujols or the Tigers in the final years of Miguel Cabrera. The teams that rip the Band-Aid off are usually the ones that recover faster. If this deal goes through, it defines the 2026 season for both franchises before a single pitch is thrown. For the Pirates, it signals a shift from passive rebuilding to opportunistic aggression. It tells their fan base, we are trying to get better, and we are smart enough to use other teams' desperation to do it. For the Phillies, it is a humble admission of failure, but also a bold declaration that they prioritize the future over their pride. They are willing to look foolish in the headlines today to hoist a trophy tomorrow. That takes guts. It takes a willingness to be the punchline of the offseason jokes in exchange for the flexibility to fix the roster. Nick Castellanos is at a crossroads. He went from a $100 million prize to a player his own team is paying to leave. That is a heavy psychological burden, but it can also be the ultimate fuel. If he lands in Pittsburgh or anywhere else, he is playing for his legacy and his next contract. The chip on his shoulder will be the size of the Liberty Bell. And for the Phillies, the clock is ticking loudly. February is approaching. Spring training is the deadline for chemistry. They cannot bring this uncertainty into the clubhouse. They need to decide, are they a team paralyzed by past mistakes or a team ruthless enough to correct them? So, I'm turning this over to you, the best community in baseball. Put on your general manager hat for a second. If you are running the Phillies, do you eat the $15 million and send Castellanos to Pittsburgh just to clear the space? Or do you hold onto him, hope for a bounce back, and risk getting nothing? This is the kind of decision that gets GMs fired or builds dynasties. I want to see your arguments in the comments below. Don't just give me a yes or no. Tell me why. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the business of baseball, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We are tracking every move of this offseason, and you don't want to miss what happens next.